Morning, my fellow human beings. Dion here, Dion Harper. Excuse the appearance. I've got no heating, cooling, anything like that. Long story. But yeah, we're backing ourselves into a corner, my fellow human beings. It's just that simple. I cannot really put it any other way. We're a subspecies of mammal. We reside on a finite nature planet. If we're not compatible with that finite nature planet to the degree that we're taking it beyond its ability to sustain our species, we are in trouble. And that's exactly where we're at currently, and what we're heading for circumstances-wise. The climate change scenario that we've landed ourselves in, that we brought about in the first place, it's serious stuff. We're talking about a mass extinction level event scenario sort of situation. You only have to go down to the local museum and look at the fossils in regards to dinosaurs. It's serious stuff. That we're even messing with that side of things, it's beyond me. If we were talking a few hundred years ago, when we didn't have all the knowledge that we have available to us these days, I could it's understandable, we don't know any better, but we're in an age where we can look back at Earth from space. We know better. So it's astounding to ask me that we haven't already backed off in regards to how we're strip mining our way through Earth for little more than short-term profit margins based outcomes via the system that we made up. It spins me out. It's like, why haven't we already stepped back and put our hands up and go, oh, hang on, is that system compatible with Earth? Is it compatible with us, for that matter? Does it encourage us to, work together to resolve our internal issues, or is it more of a divide and step on each other, apartheid sort of equation? It's just pretty obvious stuff to ask me, but we're not there. I've got to start wondering: are we just too far down the rabbit hole in regards to all our learner behaviour patterns? Is it a and I'm not being rude here when I say things like this, but is it an evolutionary thing? Have we not evolved enough? Because we're quite a young species on the evolutionary scale. Have we not evolved enough for the place we're at in regards to all the technology we have available to us, etc.? Have we gotten too far ahead of ourselves? Maybe we needed another few thousand years sort of stuff before we were ready for what because we're obviously not doing it right. Otherwise, Earth would be in pretty good nick, and we'd be, at relative peace as a global community. We wouldn't be all over each other, as only have to turn on the news to see how bad it is. So it's a bad situation we're in. It's not good at all. We've got a lot of stuff going. It doesn't matter which angle we look at it. We've got a lot of stuff going on. It's serious stuff. So I do recommend that we sort of stick our hand up. Yeah, sure, we've got a lot to risk with, well, I don't, but, investments, our investment portfolios, jobs, this, that, everything else, we've got a lot to risk. But then again, if we don't put it all on the line at this point in time and figure out where we're heading as species, we're putting it all on the line anyway. So we are risking the well-being of all our future loved ones as yet to come at this point in time. So if we don't stick our hands up and go, well, what are we doing? It's all on the line. Beyond, it's on the line. We're going to go down that rabbit hole, and we will be in the real thick of it in regards to the mass extinction level event scenario we've landed ourselves in. We'll know about it. All our food corridors and resources, freshwater wise, etc., it's all at risk. At this point in time, it's a deteriorating situation. It's a slippery slope sort of scenario, and the longer we leave it, the worse it's going to get. There's several billion of us on Earth. If we're not in a position where we're sort of ready for what's coming, when we get to tipping points, and we're very close to tipping points right across the board now, we're not going to be able to deal with just that. The anxiety of that process, all of us realising that, we're in a serious situation. What do we do when something goes wrong and, we spin out a little bit, we get a bit, anxious, etc. We'll be at each other. Are we even prepared to deal with that sort of situation, let alone what's to follow. And we go, oh, okay, we are in a spot of bother, what do we do about it? Because we'll have to get through that initial anxious moment when billions of us realise we're in actual trouble, before we can get to the point where we unite as a global community and put our heads down and sort of, okay, we need to have a serious discussion about where we're heading and sort of get on with it, sort of thing. We're in a serious spot of bother, and these folk that are running around online, and folk that I consider to be quite well educated folk that are, playing down the serious nature of it all in regards to the situation we find ourselves in with climate change, particularly public representatives, politicians that should well and truly know better, but for the purposes of political cycles and the jobs that they hold, they're deliberately downplaying the situation we've landed ourselves in re climate change. Oh, that's a bit of an issue to ask me. All of it, right across the board. I know better, so if I didn't stick up my hand, I studied conservation and land management. I've had my head in books for years and years in regards to, all of it. So I know better. So if I didn't stick my hand up, I'm a part of the problem. So all of it, news broadcasters, public representatives, educators, we're all involved in one way or another. Those of us that are aware. And there are folk that aren't aware, some folk haven't even had access to the internet for whatever reasons, they're not aware. But the bulk of us should know better. Whether you've had a high degree of education or not, the bulk of us should know better in regards to the situation we've landed ourselves in. And we should be sticking our hands up and going, well, hang on, we need to have a serious discussion in regards to, where we're heading as a global community, and we need to have that discussion on behalf of all our future loved ones as yet to come. So that's kind of where we need to be. We have to sit down, have an all-in, totally transparent education, democratically based discussion in regards to where we're heading as a global community. A lot to deal with, we're all, even though we all live under the same equation, quote me if I'm wrong, but I need a wallet no matter where I go on Earth. If I want to get a feed, I've got to cough up a currency of some form. So we all live under the same equation. Yet, we've got all our individual countries and constitutions and mandates and this and that and everything else. So there's a lot to deal with. Quote me if I'm wrong, but any constitution for any of our countries, 85, 90% minimum to overturn a constitution. And it's not to say that I'm saying we need to overturn these things, but we need to be a functioning global community. So it all needs to be intertwined and working together in regards to the bigger picture side of things. So we need to sit down and have a bit of a discussion, cultures, personal faiths, we've got to figure it all out, find a middle ground. I've been there with personal faiths. What do we got? Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism. We've got to find a middle ground with all these personal faiths. There's a lot of delicate, slight variances between each one, and issues, population, etc., etc. Very delicate situation. Is the mass extinction level event playing out on Earth a delicate situation? We need to have that discussion, my fellow human beings. I highly recommend, delicate or not, we need to negotiate our way to a workable middle ground as a global community so we can get on with addressing our climate change problems best we can. Make it a little bit, we're not going to make it go away overnight. We've let it get to a point now where it's an intergenerational problem, so we have to be the starting point. And we have to have that discussion, and we need to start working towards, with each generation that passes, it'll take a few generations, we need to slowly make it a little bit better for the next generations, make sure, the foundations of what our objective is, bigger pictures wise, it's solid, rock solid, so we need to have that discussion. It's a delicate situation right across the board is what I'm saying, but it has to happen regardless, or else it's going to be more of a delicate situation than we realise, as in we'll be in trouble. As I've said, a mass extinction level event scenario playing out on Earth, is a serious scenario. It's as serious as it gets. You know, it's like a mass extinction level event size asteroid is heading straight at us. We'd be reacting if that were the case. It's the same scenario with climate change is just coming at us from a different direction, and because we don't really see it as in we would see an asteroid, we'd put the telescope on it and see it. You know, but that doesn't mean that it's not there, and it's not as serious a scenario, because it is. It's very serious. So yeah, we need to have a bit of a chat, my fellow human beings. We need to figure out where we're heading as a global community. It's a logistics, acquisition, distribution sort of situation. Once we figure out where we're heading, you know, factor in all our cultures, personal faiths, you know, is equality going to be a part of the equation, etc., etc., etc. But we have the technology there as far as, you know, supercomputers, AI technology, etc. We could work out the logistics, acquisition, distribution side of things. It wouldn't be as hard as we think. It's the where we're heading side of things that it's a bit more complicated. You know, as I said, you only have to turn on the news to have a look at us. You know, we're all over the place on the best of days. It's beyond embarrassing. It's scary. I'm quite concerned about the situation. You know, like most of us, I've got folk dear to me. You know, they're going to have children, etc., etc. So I worry for their future. So it's quite concerning. It really is. Anyway, I'll leave it there, my fellow human beings. My path, I've actually got some stuff going on with my health out here. It's not good. It's not good, but it is what it is. That's a hint on what's going on. If I'm relocated, it might be able to be stabilised. I'm quite confident it can be, but my circumstances, I don't have those options available to me. It's a beyond my control sort of scenario. But I've been, you know, barking up that tree in a very polite way for a while now, all this year actually. Whether it happens or not is, like I said, it's beyond my control, but I hope it happens, because if I can stabilise the situation, I want to be a lot more proactive in regards to our, you know, getting involved with the community side of things, whether it be on a, you know, the whole climate change situation, or I'm just volunteering down in the local nursing home somewhere. I want to get involved, more involved, but I've got to get my situation under control. It's quite bad. I've learned, you know, I'm shallow breathing here. I'm only living on half breaths at the moment, but there's something going on. My oxygen levels are okay, but there's something else going on. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that side of things at this point in time anyway. I probably will do a video chat re this side of things at very near into the future, but not on this occasion. So yeah, we've got to figure out where we're heading as a global community, my fellow human beings. I highly recommend we get it done. Get it done, as in, you know, put our hands up. You know, yeah, it might bring a little bit of attention, might change your life, you know, affect your investment portfolio or whatever. But like I said, a mass extinction level event scenario playing out on Earth, that'll affect your investment portfolio any which way once the serious stuff kicks in. All right, I'll leave it there, my fellow human beings. Yeah, that'll do. That's enough time. Nearly 15 minutes. Regards, Dion. Peace to you and all, including all our future loved ones as yet to come. Gone.